What's up, everybody? This is Coach Mike, founder of Walk On Consultants, where I help new investors get off the bench, get off the sidelines, get in the game of investing. I think it's the greatest game in the world. And so I'm here to present to you a small little webinar on investing during the war. This is actually a re-record. I had a great meeting, great discussion, lots of engagement last week, and I forgot to hit record. So here we go again. So I'm going to share my screen, get right down to it, and present what I presented to you last week, but I forgot to hit record. So it's a discussion on investing during the war. So here we go. Let me just share my screen real quick and get to the presentation. So first screen here, I guess I can skip. This was for the Zoom meeting last week, right? You don't have to enter your name and your city in the chat, but in the comment section of my YouTube channel, please do that. And don't forget to like and subscribe. So we meet the first Tuesday every month at 7 o'clock. All the meetings are virtual or have been virtual, and we're looking for a place to do them in person for people that are in the Baltimore area. However, for December, I will not be having a Zoom meeting. I would love to just get together, have a bite to eat, and just share some laughs and jokes and tell me how the year went for you. So the first Tuesday in December for this year, I'm looking for a location to be determined, but check your emails. I'll send out a notice about where we're going to meet up. But December will just be fun to talk and laugh and cry about some of our losses in the stock market. All right. So again, I'm your host, Coach Mike, founder, CEO of Walk On Consultants, where I help people get off the bench, get in the game. Let's start investing. If you don't know, you got to learn. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to teach. I always begin the meetings with the quote, my favorite quote from Benjamin Franklin, that investment in knowledge pays the best interest. And that's really what I'm all about. I'm about teaching and sharing information, helping you get some knowledge, get off the bench, start investing. Okay. So that's one of my favorite quotes of all time. Now, we all know, or maybe we don't know, but the question comes up, is war profitable? You know, last year, I think it was in February of 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine. And, we're talking about the military industrial complex, all these money being spent on war. But is there a profit to be made? So I think the answer is yes. But if there's a profit in a war, how about two wars? Because now we got Israel, right? So now we got the Ukraine war and we got the Israel war. So certainly if there's profit in one war, there's profit in two wars. So think about this. All the weapons, that these guys need to fight these wars, right? The missiles, the jets, the tanks, the guns, the ammunition, right? It's got to come from somewhere. And there are companies in America that make these weapons for sale, okay? And they are also publicly traded companies. So if they're publicly traded, that means you can invest in them. Now, the question came up during the discussion last week was, should you invest in war? Well, I'm not here to be your moral compass and say, should you? I'm just saying, if you want to, here's how you can do it. Okay, so that we can do that discussion another time. But the should you invest is not why I'm here. I'm talking about if you want to, then here's how you can profit and invest off of these wars. So there are some publicly traded companies. You'll see the symbols in parentheses, the defense stocks, the defense industry, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin. Some of these names may or may not be familiar to you. If you live or work in a DC area, I'm sure you've heard these names before. Boeing, of course, makes airplanes not just for the military, but they make planes for companies like Southwest and American Airlines. And so they make planes, not just military planes, okay? So get familiar with these names. If you're looking to invest and profit off of the war, these are some of the names you should be looking at. Now, one thing I want to point out is that if you're not into picking individual stocks, you guys know you have the option of doing an ETF. What's an ETF? An exchange traded fund. Look at one of my earlier videos where I talk about what an ETF is, but an exchange traded fund. So you sort of have a combination of all of those stocks put into one pot, right? Now, they've got the top 10 holdings here, which I think makes up about 75% of the portfolio. It's not the whole portfolio, but it's a way for you to invest in an ETF that covers pretty much the entire defense industry. And that way you don't have to figure out, should I pick Raytheon? Should I pick Lockheed Martin? Should I pick General Dynamics? I'm not sure which is going to be the best one. The ETF covers them all. So if you're looking for an easy, simple way, the symbol is ITA. It's an ETF. And that way you're covered with the entire defense industry. But I'm here to talk about performance. Like, has this theory worked? Would it have worked, right? This is what it's done since the year started. So we're looking at from January of 2023 up until now in November of 2023. And it doesn't look good. It underperformed the S&P, and that's the benchmark that we all talk about. The S&P 500 is what money managers and portfolio managers and even individual investors we use to compare how we're doing versus the index. And sorry to say, it didn't do well. 1.13% versus 13.7. Clearly way underperformed for this year of 2023. Okay. But we don't want to just look at what it's done for this year. We're long-term investors, right? How about the last 2 years? This covers when Russia first invaded Ukraine. Remember, they invaded in February of 2022. So this starts in January of 2022. And you see, it went down and really didn't do well. Although over the 2-year period, it beat the S&P, but it really wasn't a good return, 3.82% over a 2-year period. That's really nothing to write home about. Although it beat the S&P, so okay, yeah, it's sort of a winner, but really not much of a return over a 2-year period. Well, how about over a 5-year period? I think this is definitely what can be more indicative of probably future results, right? Because no one wants to invest for just 6 months, a year, 2 years. We talk 3 to 5 years. So this is a 5-year chart, and now I can see clearly way underperformed. The S&P was 57%, right? Over 5 years. That's pretty good returns. Whereas the defense ETF was only 12.5% over 5 years. Really not a good return. So I guess that answers your question. The theory of should I invest in a war or one of these stocks or the ETF over a 5-year period, it did not do well. Okay, did not do well. So I want to point out, okay, because I prepared this presentation, there's one stock that beat them all, that did beat the index, and I'm going to show you on the next slide. Can you guess which one? Is it Raytheon? Is it Northrop Grumman? Is it Boeing? Which one is it? All right. You guess? Okay. That is Northrop Grumman. Northrop Grumman was the only defense stock that beat the S&P 500 over the last 5 years. Only one. Now, I'm not saying go out and buy it. I'm just saying if you look at, you want to know facts. These are the facts. It's the only one that beat the S&P 500 over the last 5 years. The only defense stock, let me put it that way. Okay? So as you can see, over the last 5 years, Northrop Grumman, 64% over 5 years versus the S&P, 57%. Not bad. I'd say pretty good. I mean, that's 13% a year, every year for 5 years if you held on long term. So, hey, if you're looking for one, I would suggest you check out Northrop Grumman. Okay, but wrapping up here, before you buy any stock, okay, you need to know why are you buying this stock. Think about a prosecutor in a courtroom. Think about a defense attorney in the courtroom, right? They're arguing for their client. They're laying out facts about this is why my client is innocent, or this is why my client is I'm sorry, the prosecutor would say this is why this defendant is guilty, but the lawyer is going to say this is why my client is innocent. Do you have a convincing argument for why you're buying the stock? And don't tell me because you heard from Coach Mike. That is not a good idea. Take the idea, but then investigate it. Does Coach Mike know what he's talking about, right? Or any of the other internet gurus that you see on Instagram and Facebook and TV. Let that idea be food for thought, and then go do your homework and see, does this make sense? Can you explain it to somebody else and in a way that they can actually understand what you're talking about? Okay. If not, you should not be buying this stock. Do you know how they make money? Is it the weapons? Is it the missiles? Is it the whatever? Is it products or services? And what's going to happen if there's not a war? Will they still make money? So like Boeing, they sell airplanes to the airplane industry, like Southwest and American Airlines. So it's not just military planes. So, but you need to know that before you invest your money. So I always caution investors, before you buy a stock, please do some homework. Don't just take my word for it. And lastly, is this an investment or is it just a trade? You got to know the difference. Okay. Two more things or one more thing. Please make sure that you are always diversified in your portfolio. Okay. Now, this is the way the S&P 500 is broken down. You don't have to have a stock in every sector. You don't have to have all 11 sectors. But certainly you don't want to have everything in your portfolio into one sector. Okay, so please be diversified. Next slide, I want to say, you may hear the terms defense and defensive thrown around a lot by people like myself and other people. And I want to make the distinction between defense, like military, versus defensive. Okay. And you can tell by the context of what the discussion is about. If we're talking about the war in Ukraine, talking about the war in Israel, or any war, whether it's Iraq, Afghanistan, or any kind of war, then we're talking about defense stocks like the Raytheons and in Northrop Grumman's. However, if the conversation is around the economy is going to get bad, the economy is going to slow down, we're going to go into the recession, then you want to get defensive. Totally different from defense, right? These are sectors that are going to do well no matter what the economy does. Think about healthcare. If you get sick and you need surgery, are you going to put it off because you don't have money? No, you're going to take care of that because you want to live, right? Consumer staples, things like, food and beverages, shampoo, deodorant, toothpaste, you got to have those, okay? And utility companies, right? You're going to pay your utility bill. So these are called defensive because they're companies or sectors that will do well no matter what the economy does. So please understand the distinction. Sometimes we throw it around and we assume what people know we're talking about, and they don't always know, and they're too afraid to ask. I'm telling you now, there is a clear difference between defense and defensive. So let me just go back one slide right here. The defense stocks, right, that I mentioned earlier would be under the industrials because they make things, right? Whereas the defensive are considered consumer staples. The staples are the things you have to have. The toothpaste, the deodorant, the laundry detergent, those are consumer staples. And healthcare would be a consumer staple. Utilities would be a consumer staple. Those are things that you're going to have no matter what, okay? So please make sure you know the difference. And we may be going into a recession in 2024. Who knows? So these are some stocks you should probably put on your radar for 2024, okay? Now, last thing here is that you should always monitor your portfolio. Although we are long-term investors, that doesn't mean we just put stocks in the portfolio and forget about them and check back in 5 years. No, you set an alert. Use technology to your advantage. You can set an alert to give you a little ping when something happens, whether there's earnings or a merger or the CEO died or quit or was found guilty or whatever, right? You can use technology to your advantage, set an alert, we'll give you a notification that when something happens, okay? Also, just like sports, these companies have to report every single quarter. In football and basketball, there's a timeout built in. Every quarter, the coaches get together, they talk about what's working, what's not working. You need to be doing the same thing with your stock portfolio because they report every quarter. They tell you how they did last quarter and what to expect next quarter. You should be reading these reports, listening to the audio cast, but checking in every now and then with your portfolio and make some changes if necessary. Make some changes. So I like to say that learning is a journey. It is not a destination. I've been investing for a really long time. I don't think I know it all. Whenever I see something new that catches my attention, I try to investigate it and learn some more. So please don't be shy. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I need to learn some more. Check out some more videos. Book an appointment with Coach Mike, right? So you can learn. But it is not a destination. You'll never get there, okay? There is no there. It's just a continuous journey of learning. So please book an appointment. I enjoyed this conversation. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Please like and share. And I will see you guys next month, hopefully at a restaurant in the Baltimore area. Thanks for checking in. I'll talk to you soon.